Have you ever wanted to come up with your own quilt design, but you're just not quite sure where to start? Today, I would love to show you kind of how I come up with my ideas and maybe give you some ideas of how you can come up with your own. If you're interested in this video, please stick around and let's jump right into it, okay? Hello, my name is Miriam and I am obsessed with quilting. I think that is no secret these days, right? I've started this series Behind the Stitches where I'm kind of talking about kind of behind the scenes of my business and stuff. This video is somewhat related to that, but this could also be used by anyone who wants to come up with a quilt design idea. Maybe you don't necessarily want to follow a pattern that someone else has made, or maybe you just haven't found the pattern that speaks to you, or you just really want to push yourself and come up with your own design. I'm hoping will help a multitude of people kind of come up with your own ideas. Let's get right into it, shall we? So last week I talked about kind of my overview of coming up with my quilt patterns. So this is technically step number 1 in that overview, which is the ideation phase. Really coming up with the idea. A really great way to come up with an idea is to find inspiration. And you can find inspiration for quilt designs literally anywhere. You could find it from other people's designs. You can find it on Pinterest. You can find it on Instagram. You can find it at Home Depot. We'll talk about it. So there's like all kinds of places where you can just look at things, gain inspiration, and then take that and translate that into a cool pattern, right? Obviously, probably the most well-known is to gain inspiration from other people's quilt pattern designs. You might see where someone came up with a really cool block that you really liked and you think, oh, I think I could come up with something similar to that. We're not copying, okay? You do not want to copy anybody's designs, especially if it's a super unique design. Don't copy. It's frowned upon. They could possibly take legal action against you if it's a legit copycat. But what I mean by gaining inspiration from other people, for me personally, through this series where I'm going to talk about how I come up with quilt patterns or how I write my quilt patterns, I'm actually going to create a pattern along with you guys in this series so you can kind of see from start to finish how it goes. So for me, I have always really loved the look of log cabin quilt patterns. It's a really timeless look and they're very fun to make. They're scrappy friendly, which is always fun. I don't know, I just really love the look of log cabins. There's no, you don't have to make any half square triangles, which I like half square triangles, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it gets a little tedious having to make a whole bunch of them for a pattern, right? I just love the construction of a log cabin block and they're just really fun. And you can really switch up the look of the quilt just by adjusting the color placement and the rotation of the block and all that sort of thing. So for me, for this challenge, I'm going to try to come up with a log cabin quilt pattern. So that's kind of where I've gained my inspiration. That's my ideation. I've already kind of come up with that. So maybe that's something that you could do. You could just come up with a block that you really like, but you want to put your own spin on it. That is something you could do. A few examples of that also are for my mom's cozy Christmas pattern. I'll pop up a picture here. A lot of people have come up with gift box blocks, right, for a quilt, like a present for a Christmas quilt. That's kind of a pretty familiar look for a Christmas quilt, right? But for mine, I wanted to come up with something a little different. So I included the star in the center of the block. And I think it looked really great. I really liked it. It's a really fun block to make. And it stands apart from other gift box blocks. Another example is my free pumpkin block that I have that I made for fall, I think last year. That is actually very similar. It's a pumpkin. Lots of people have come up with a pumpkin block, but again, I included an 8-point star in the center of the block, and it just adds that extra quilty goodness to the block, and it makes it stand apart from other blocks. That's kind of what I mean by gaining inspiration from people, you know, seeing like, oh, that's so cute. How can I change it to make it me? How can I change it to make it a bit more unique? Oh, other places you can find inspiration. Did you know that you can go to Home Depot and look at the flooring options? Tiles. There are a lot of tiles that if you really look at it, you could think that would actually make a really cool looking quilt block. So I've done this a couple of times where I've just kind of wandered around like Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, and looked at the tiles just to kind of see what's out there and see kind of what shapes are going on, what might be kind of trendy right now, that sort of thing. And you can really gain inspiration from tile. That's one place, kind of a surprising place you can find inspiration. Along with that, you can find inspiration at different architectural areas. If you go to museums or like a botanical garden. Botanical gardens are such a wonderful, inspiring place to go. Like just seeing all of the nature, plant life, and they also a lot of times have beautiful mosaic tiling work done there, conservatories, and like all of that at a botanical garden. So if you live near a botanical garden, I highly recommend going, just because it's beautiful to go to. But then you can also kind of gain inspiration for your next design maybe. That's a place I like to go to also for some inspiration, even just thinking outside the box with colors and kind of what colors go together, you know? Take lots of pictures and just take your time looking at things and just really thinking, how can I take the inspiration from this and turn it into a block? A quilt block or a quilt design, that sort of thing. So that's another really fun place to find inspiration for quilts. If you're into a specific design style, like home design, like if you really like kind of country chic, look that up. I really love Pinterest. I've loved Pinterest since Pinterest was a thing. But if you go on Pinterest, you can type in country chic design or country chic decor or country chic aesthetic. And then if you look that up, it's going to populate thousands of pictures that you can use then as inspiration. That's something I really like to do. I personally really love what they call cottage core. I think that's just it's really cute. It's cozy. It's a little hobbity. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, so I just really love everything that's just, you know, cute and cozy and soft colors. And I do that a lot, especially when I'm actually coming up with the color palette for a quilt design. I like to use Pinterest and look up different color palettes that are within kind of what I like. Cottagecore is one that I search. Cozy cottage, just different words like that I like to search up. So kind of figuring out the keywords that you like and then just search that with the word aesthetic after it. And then it's going to give you like all kinds of pictures of things that you could possibly glean from and gain some inspiration from, right? Something also to think about when you are coming up with your ideas is, let's say you find like a beautiful flower that you really like, but you're like, how do I translate that into a pieced quilt block? So you got to start kind of thinking about things like a geometric frame. If you're not comfortable doing curves, then just think in, you know, squares, rectangles, triangles, and kind of, you know, think in that way. How can I translate this beautiful flower into, you know, this more structured geometric shape? So that's something to kind of be thinking about while you're gaining your inspiration. Like you could find something that, wow, I just love this shape, but then how in the world do I translate that into a quilt block? It takes trial and error, but this is just to get the wheels turning, just to get you kind of thinking about what is possible in quilt block form, right? Now, if you're able to do foundation paper piecing, if you like foundation paper piecing and that's the route you want to go, with that, you can make all kinds of stuff. You know, there are some unbelievable foundation paper piecing designers out there. The one that I think of, her company is called Pride and Joy Quilting. Her stuff is like on a whole other level. Her designs are gorgeous. And she'll take like an actual piece of art and translate it into a quilt block, and well, not just one quilt block, an entire quilt design. And I just think she's amazing. She's amazing. I love looking at her stuff. But that's an option. If you are able to figure that out, and you know foundation paper piecing is what you want to do, the sky is the limit with that. You just kind of have to figure out what you want to do with your patterns, right? That's kind of my way of thinking when finding inspiration. Yes, I like to look at other people's stuff, but I really try to come up with my own thing. So if I find inspiration in someone's designs, I then try to translate it into something that I really like. Now that's going to be a little tricky for me, to be 100% honest, with the log cabin, because there are so many log cabin quilt patterns out there. I'm actually going to try not to be looking at other people's designs and really try to come up with something all on my own for that. We'll see what I come up with. So once you kind of find your inspiration and you kind of got the wheels going and you kind of have an idea of what you might want to come up with, whether it's, you know, a block that looks like a coffee cup, or a block that looks like a frog, or, you know what, I really love the churn dash block. I want to come up with my own version of the churn dash. Once you kind of come up with your idea of what you want to do, then you want to start kind of sketching it out. This is super preliminary. You do not have to get into a computer program or anything. We're not even going to open up EQ8 today. This is just kind of thinking through what you're going to do. So you can draw it up, get some graph paper, and just draw it up real quick on the graph paper and kind of see what is possible with the little squares. The little squares really help you visualize it in quilt block form. So that's what I would recommend. Get a graph paper notebook and just have at it. Try to draw it. If you don't know how to draw, that's okay. You don't have to draw it. Just really focus on super basic shapes when you're first starting out. Unless you're really good at drawing, then obviously go ahead and draw up what you want to do. But if you're not confident in your drawing skills, like me, you just really want to try to start out with really basic shapes and piecing techniques for your first few designs that you come up with, okay? Another thing that you want to think about in your ideation phase is, how many blocks do I want in this quilt design? Do I just want to do one block and it's just repeated? Or do I want to do a couple of blocks where it's kind of varied? Or do I want to have it just be completely modern and avant-garde and have a block here and then blank space and then a block down here and some blank space and a block down here? So there's a lot of things that need to kind of go through your thinking phase of just kind of how you want the look of your quilt to be. This is a really fun stage, you guys. Do not rush through the ideation stage. You really want to solidify what you want to do, and you really want to be in love with the design that you're going to be making. You don't want to just, especially if you're trying to come up with quilt pattern designs that you want to potentially sell, I would say you really want to love the design that you're coming up with. You really want to be proud of it, because you're going to be spending a lot of time on this quilt design and quilt pattern. You want to actually enjoy the process, right? If you're just trying to come up with something real quick and just think you're just going to get it and put it out and you're just going to keep on doing that, you're going to get burnt out doing that if you don't love what you're doing. I fully believe that as a creative, you really need to enjoy what you're doing if you want to have it be sustainable. And that's for pretty much any type of creative work. You have to enjoy it. If you ever want to try to do a YouTube channel, you have to enjoy the whole part of making YouTube videos, or you're probably not going to last. That's something I have learned. If I didn't enjoy making videos, if I didn't enjoy quilting or making patterns, I would not still be doing this. And luckily, I love all of it. It's so much fun. I love pushing my creativity and kind of my skill set and learning. I'm constantly learning. But anyways, that is the first stage of coming up with a quilt design. I just wanted to go over just that in this video, because I want you to kind of start thinking about, what can I make a quilt pattern on, right? There are so many types of quilt patterns. There's quilt patterns where people piece blocks that look like something, right? Like I mentioned, a coffee cup, a frog, my gift box block, a pumpkin, a little house. There's so many things. There's also, you know, kind of traditional quilt blocks, the churn dash quilt block, the different star blocks. You kind of need to figure out what your style is and what you want to create, right? Me, I want to do a log cabin, but with a twist. I got to figure out some way of how I'm going to make it a little more interesting. And I will show you that in the next video once I have that kind of figured out, and we'll actually go into EQ8 and I'll show you how I designed the block in there, and we will design a block from scratch. I'll make sure that I do that to kind of show you how to do all of that. Another thing, if you have EQ8 on your computer, great place to find inspiration. All of the blocks in EQ8 are like free domain, so you can use those in your quilt patterns if you want without worrying about any copyright or anything. That's the same thing goes for the Block Base Plus program, I do believe is what it's called. It's like an add-on to EQ8, so it's got like over 1,000 blocks. It might have thousands. I can't remember how many are in that program. But all of the blocks included in there can be used in your quilt patterns. That's something to keep in mind. So those are all copyright free. You can use them in your designs if you want. That's my little overview of gaining inspiration and just how to kind of start thinking about translating something from real life into a quilt block and kind of where you can find some inspiration. So I hope you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know. Do you know something that you want to create into a quilt block? Let me know in the comments below. We can chit chat about it. And thank you so much for watching this video. I probably will not have the next video in this series up next week. I'm trying to get some stuff figured out for my website and stuff. I want to get it a bit more easier to navigate for the customer. So I've got some stuff I have to figure out for that. So I'm going to be pretty busy doing computer work and things for that. And I have other stuff that I'm working on. I have a pattern I have to design for my Block of the Month program, and I'm working on that currently. So I just have several things that I'm getting done this week. All right, that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please give it a like. Recommend it to your friends if they want to start designing quilts. This is not just for people that want to sell patterns either. You could use this training and this stuff that I'm going to be teaching in this series for just creating patterns for yourself, and coming up with your own ideas and then writing it down, so then you don't have to figure it out every time you want to go make that quilt. So anyways, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you very soon, all right?